Hi guys, Ricky here. First of all, if I don't know you, I hope to meet you. Second of all, if you do know me, I miss you. And there'll be a lot of hugs coming up here in a few weeks. So it was a restore class today, and we're all having the opportunity to, well, a lot of us are slowing down and looking inward. Because when we're still and motionless, we tend to self-reflect a little bit more. And I would like to invite you, if you have a couple of blocks, maybe grab those. I have one of these little small bolsters here at home. Or if you don't have a bolster, maybe a pillow. We're going to do some wall work, which is pretty much my favorite to do in a restore class. We get to just let gravity do everything and we don't have to do a darn thing. So I'll ask you to just sit for a moment in silence. Allow your eyes to be heavy. Hands could be in your lap or anywhere comfortable. But for a moment, sit with a little more attention. So press down with your sitting bones so you can sit on a block, you can sit on your heels, you can sit cross-legged any way that's as comfortable as possible for you. And just begin to notice your breath. So today we'll do about 40-45 minutes of restore class, these yin postures, and we'll do 15 or 20 minutes of guided meditation. And I might even let you drift off on your own without me talking your head off there in that guided meditation. Feel your belly move in and out as you breathe. If you like, you can invite a little attention to the sound of your breath, if you like. So if you want to do that, make it a really mild Ujjayi breath. Just to remind ourselves to be gentle with ourselves. Let's take 5 more breaths at your own pace. Deepen the breath just a little bit, a little more on the exhale, a little more on the inhale. Facilitating the body to relax a little bit more. Just a little, maybe make a little pact with yourself here to be okay being still. And moving nice and slowly, let's come into a legs up the wall posture. We'll call it waterfall in restore. Big fancy name in Sanskrit, Viparita Karani. There won't be a quiz on that, I promise. Easiest way I know to get into this is to bring your right or left butt cheek up against the wall and then swing your legs up nice and tall. If you like, you can place a block or your bolster or a pillow underneath your hips. This can help us to get a little more comfortable. It kind of depends on you. So as we say around here, do you. And I'll invite you to get your shoulder blades a little underneath you, so kind of walk them under a little bit more. Arms can be kind of alongside your body, or letter T, or maybe goalpost arms. Once again, whatever is most comfortable for you. Let your eyes close. Just you and gravity here. This is a great posture for, so for your circulatory system for one. Teaches the heart to pump blood uphill into the legs. Helps the legs to cleanse as well. So when we get into an inversion like this, the fluid tends to kind of drain down toward the hips and eventually going through the lymphatic system to be cleanse through the body. We're here for 5 minutes total, so you have about 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes, and sometimes doing nothing is actually getting more done to help balance this than anything else we could choose to do. Because our mind likes to be busy. That's what the mind does. Being still, we line a little more with the heart. We're about halfway done here. I don't know how you can be halfway done doing nothing. Kind of like that. There was an old pun or something like, the only problem with doing nothing for a living is you never know when you're finished. But I'll keep you on a timer here. And this is a great posture to, at least for most of us, to feel really grounded in, be really lazy in. The only contraindication would be, I wouldn't stay in this posture a long, long time if I had a high blood pressure. Got a little less than 2 minutes left. If it feels better to adjust your shoulders and your arms by now, feel free to, maybe you find a more comfortable place. And we would like to find a place as much as possible to surrender into our postures in our Restore class. To not offer any resistance. And that's going to be a little different physically for each of us. We have about 1 more minute here. Just you, your breath, and gravity. And even if, because I know some of us in this time are as busy as usual, and some of us are having a lot of free time on our hands. And I am enjoying that, but I really do miss doing what I do in the studios. Miss the connection with all of you. So I'm sending you all that desire, all that connection, which I firmly believe can be done even if we're not in physical proximity to one another. Let's take about 4 more breaths here. Maybe deepen them, not with a lot of effort, but just with a little extra attention. And as always, in the Restore class, I'll ask you to move into the next position really slowly, because the body is really trusting you right now, because it's been stationary for 5 minutes. Start to bend your knees, come into a wall butterfly. So maybe that means that your heels are way up high. There's no wrong way to do this. Or maybe it means that your heels are a little bit closer to your hips. I like to use my hands here to help support my knees. And we've got 4 minutes here. Allowing access into the hips and the sacral chakra as well as the root chakra. If you're in my practice regularly, I'd like to speak about the chakras sometimes, It's all about this physical life that we're living, these deep, rich emotions that come from our lower chakras for the most part. There's a sense of safety and abundance or lack come from generally from the root chakra. And our sense of self, how we identify with ourselves in the world, how we interact with others, our intimate relationships with people, more from our sacral chakra area. And if that feels a little excited, if we feel a little lost in the world sometimes, a hot bath can help us to relax and feel a little more grounded, because water is the element identified, related to the sacral chakra. And I'm going to stop talking for a little while here and just feel what you feel. There's no way to do this wrong. If you feel it in the hips, great. If you feel it more in your state of mind, great. One more minute here. We'll take about 5 more nice, long, deep breaths without, how should I say, just bring a little extra depth to them. They don't have to be bellowing breaths. And if your hands are not already supporting your knees, please bring your hands to your knees and help bring the knees closer together. You probably need to slide the feet up a little bit. And we'll find a wall malasana. For me, I'm not going to go very deep today. I've got some things going on in my hip labrums that I'm going to make sure I take it extra gentle today. And if you like, you can bring the heels down further. Looks like you're just in malasana, in a deep yogic squat. Only it's easier because you've got gravity and the wall to support you. And I think in the next Restore class, we'll theme around that support. It's a good thing to feel. Got about 3 more minutes here. So as always, just find a place where you can feel a little something, a little yumminess, and try to avoid the desire to go deeper. Where we are is usually the best place we could possibly be. Attention to your breath, and the very fact that you bring attention to your breath will change. As I like to remind us often, we are very, very, very powerful beings as humans. Simply by observing something, that thing actually changes. So, Valmalasana, I tend to think of it as Walasana. So I'm recording this today. It's, what is it, Wednesday. It's just glorious outside. Or is it Tuesday? I don't even know. I think it is Tuesday. Last minute here. Belly breaths always help. If you like, for a moment, you can bring your hands to your rib cage and breathe in and out. And try not to have the ribs expand and contract. So breathing in more and out more through the belly is going to help the hip flexors to open up, the beginning of our core muscles. Last 30 seconds on your own. So an idea just occurred to me, so we'll stay here for about 30 more seconds. If we are not friends on Facebook, feel free to friend me and or send me a private message if there's something that you'd like to theme on in our meditation, if there's some sort of idea, concept, situation, anything like that, feel free to send it to me. We can always guide a meditation on topic. And hands to the knees, support yourself. Just bring the legs back up the wall for a moment, back in waterfall. Just kind of windshield wiper your feet slowly left and right. A little more space for the hips after being in Walasana for 4 minutes or so. And from here, we take wall pigeon. Make a figure 4, right ankle to your left thigh. And again, for a lot of us, it'll feel nice to support the right knee here. If you'd like to feel more, first of all, if you're feeling something in your right hip right now, that might be perfect for you. If you're not really feeling anything, start to slide the left heel down, and you will feel something. And again, for me, I'm taking it easy in my hips right now. Just give them a little bit of opening, facilitating a little more energy through the Sacral Chakra. Again, it can really help to balance our emotions, getting into the hips. And I see the brain is more of the processing unit for these lower chakras. We're spiritual beings living in a physical existence according to yoga tradition. It's a tradition that I subscribe to. And being able to manage those emotions can be tricky. And according to a lot of the teachings that I am really in love with, we chose to do this. We were spiritual beings. We chose to live into a physical existence. And by all accounts, it is quite challenging. And by the way, you're greatly admired for it. about a minute and a half left here. Belly breaths. Last minute. Five more breaths. Make them nice and slow. And I'll invite you to place that little magical pause at the top and the bottom of your breath. Magic things happen in that little pause. And moving slowly, start to bring your knee back towards your chest and extend your leg up for waterfall again. It might feel good to take a couple more windshield wipers, nice and slowly. The slower we move, the more the body stays in that soft state. And when that feels about right, let's take the other side. Once again, you can have a block or your bolster or a pillow underneath your hips here. It can make it a little more soft for our lower back. Got about 3.5 minutes left here. And these young postures and these long holds can remind us that we are a human being and not just a human doing so much. About 2.5 minutes left. If I didn't mention it, and I think I probably forgot, there is a playlist if you haven't played your own music. I'll make sure I draw attention to that next time. I apologize. But there's nothing wrong with silence anyway. It's my favorite sound of the universe. Two more minutes. Just being. Once again, belly breaths gives us something to focus on. And long, soft breaths give the body the confidence to relax. And when it relaxes, we become more flexible physically and mentally. Last minute, guys. Let's take 4 more belly breaths. Breathe in. Little pause at the top, and then let it out. Little pause at the bottom. 3 more, just like that. Last cycle of breath. And let out the clutch slowly, so to speak, and bring your legs back up in waterfall. Windshield wiper the feet if you like. And last wall posture. Excuse me, we've done our last wall posture. Start to bring your legs down to the side, or you can press into the wall and wiggle yourself back, far enough back that your feet don't touch the wall, so we don't have anything to hinder our movement. Bring your knees into your chest, give yourself about a 50% squeeze. If it feels natural, a little side to side roll. And extend your left leg, keep your right knee. And the way I do this, I bring my right foot down to the mat, and I slide my hips over to the right, supine twist, and guide it over. If you have a block handy, you can place that underneath your right knee. Right arm can reach straight out to the side if you like, or goal post. And if you're not aware of the little finger behind the knee squeeze, that helps a lot of us to feel more relaxed in this position. Once again, we can find a sense of surrender instead of holding ourselves into position. And we've got about a little over 3 minutes left here. And these gentle twists, well, or deep twists, that they get into our solar plexus chakra. This is where our sense of will and the fire of desire to accomplish, to go after and accomplish what these emotions and desires in our lower chakras are wanting. It's also where a sense of self-esteem arises from. And the element associated with that is fire. Thus, the fire, the will to do, the will to accomplish. And if it's a little shy on energy, we can feel a little, we can have some a lack of self-confidence. And it's not like these chakras are divided categorically. They all play with each other in concert with one another. One affects the other, which affects the other, and they can't really be academically separated. Soften your belly here. And once again, the belly probably was soft, but the fact that you brought your awareness to it, it changed. Have almost 2 more minutes. If it lands for you, just start to notice a difference that you have the ability to create this stillness in a world that doesn't seem so still sometimes. And the fact that you do this, you're helping the world to be a little more still. So good on you for doing that. Because we not only practice for ourselves, we can practice for the whole community, for the whole world. And in my beliefs, even further than that. Last minute here in your twist. And if you do decide to deepen your breath, you'll get a little bit deeper into your side body, helping it to surrender and relax. Belly breaths. And as you're practicing this restore class in your home, I assume that's where you are, we bring more of that stillness and that permission to be still in the space that you're in. Because space, spaces absorb energy. And if we practice stillness in a room regularly, whether you have a dedicated meditation room or a reading room or something like that, some place that you're really zen in, that space absorbs the energy. And it becomes more and more still and zen as you keep coming back day after day, week after week, year after year. And we're going to move really slowly, hopefully, and come on back to center. Take all the time you like. Squeeze your knees in, just gently. And other side when you're ready. Slide the hips over a bit. And left knee toward the right. Once again, make sure you get your hips slid over far enough that it takes less effort to hold yourself. Ideally, not having to hold yourself at all, but each of our bodies are going to be very, very different. A total of 4 minutes here. We got about a little under 3 left. Soft belly, soft eyes. About a minute and a half left here. And there's an interesting book that I read several years ago. It's called Power versus Force. It's about how there is a difference between these two things. And I think I'll go into that more over the next few weeks. But we see a lot of power being flexed in the world sometimes. And we see even more force being flexed sometimes. So it was a poor choice of a word for my first statement there. Power is something that we naturally exude, that we can. great leaders lead through their example, through their power. And other people tend to lead through force. And force is always temporary. Always. You can think of it in good or evil terms if you like. Because what we deem as evil are simply service to self beings who are trying to force others to be like them and to do what they wish. But people who lead by power, they naturally have followers. And it's the same in our practice as well. If we arrive in a place of power and not force, we're going to allow much more opening of the body and softening. Really slow motion, come on back to center. Last little knee squeeze. And we'll find a supported bridge today. If you have a block or a pillow, well, hopefully you have one. And lift your hips and just set it underneath your sacrum. Just move slow to get there. And we'll take a couple minutes here. Just a little bit of a heart opener. We'll do more of these. We'll do more heart openers next week. And it might feel nice to kind of lift your pubic bone up toward your navel a little bit. So the more comfortable you are here, the better it is. And we'll take about another minute and a half here. Your knees can be, the soles of your feet can be on your mat, or you can extend your heels out, your choice. Sometimes it's a little bit too much for our lower back to extend the heels out. I know some days feel different than other days for me. Try to find a comfortable place for your shoulder blades. Usually hugging together a little bit closer creates a little more stable feeling. Let's take about 45 more seconds here, and then we'll find Shavasana. So we were working in the lower chakras earlier. I'm getting a little bit more into our heart chakra now. This is where all the magic happens. It's the springboard. It's the transition between the lower physical chakras and the upper spiritual chakras. You're also able to get into the hip flexors in this position for most of us as well. Those those belly breaths really come in handy there, helping the hip flexors to relax. Those muscles are almost always on guard. And slowly bring the soles of your feet back to your mat, knees up. Gently lift your hips, slower the better. Slide your block away. Do whatever feels nice here. Usually it's going to be a knee squeeze. Maybe stir the pot with the knees. Might feel good to roll back and forth. Might feel good to take a happy baby with some version here. And take a nice big breath in and start to stretch out for Shavasana. And that can be whatever you like it to be. If you rather come to a Supta Baddha Konasana, excuse me, reclined butterfly, and place your blocks underneath your thighs, that can usually, some of us like that more than traditional Shavasana. I prefer traditional Shavasana. And if you're taking traditional Shavasana, again, walk your shoulder blades a little closer together. I want to create that little altar for our heart, to elevate the heart. Point your tailbone toward your heels. So that will create a little more space for your lower back. And try to find a position where you feel the fewest pressure points on your back. And I'll bring you out in a few minutes and we'll go through a guided meditation. And from here, once again, allow the mind to feel the belly lifting up and down. just a gradual deepening of your breath. Just a little reminder that you're not in a hurry. It's not necessary to be in a hurry all the time. And the most powerful position that we can take so much of the time is to be still. Really slowly allow your fingers and toes to wake up. And I invite you to do it so slowly that you could almost not even see it if you were watching. And being still is a powerful place to be. Keeps us in response mode instead of react mode. And that power versus force principle can really apply here. If we feel we need to be busy a lot, there's probably a little, maybe an imbalance of power or force. And you can remain lying down if you like for a little guided meditation. I would invite you to sit because it helps us to focus. But again, if you lie down, no worries. You won't fall asleep because I'll be speaking. Because ideally we want the legs below the hips in meditation, but this is kind of a guided visualization anyway, so just, as always, do you. Eyes closed. And just focus either on how you're sitting or how you're lying. So if you're lying, you've already kind of done that in Shavasana. If you're sitting now, press down with your sitting bones a little bit more, so you're sitting with a little more attention. And as we use a little bit of power to push down with the hips, it gets our spine a little bit taller. So there's an equal and opposing force or energy. Feel your belly move in and out. And this is all you need to focus on now. Just how you're sitting and the belly moving in and out. Just how you're sitting and the belly breath. When your thoughts drift, and they will, maybe you'll hear a little sound outside or in the next room or something. This is going to happen. And you always have this little refuge here where you come back to your belly, moving in and out, and how you're sitting. So just your sitting posture and your breath. There's so much power in stillness. The teacher I used to follow years ago, I read it in the early 90s and it made a lot of sense for me. It's just the only thought that's actually ours is to not have a response or a reaction to something. And that's kind of a lofty goal most of the time. But what we can do, I feel easily, is to just be aware of how we're sitting and how we're breathing. If you're in a sitting position, arms and hands as comfortable as you can. I'm a hands and lap guy myself, but some people prefer the thighs, and that's great. But the only thing in your world right now, how you're sitting, in other words, not slouching, and how you're breathing. How you're sitting, how you're breathing. Bring a little pride to your sitting position. Again, pressing down pretty powerfully with your hips. Is drifting more and more into your space, your inner space of power. Reminding ourselves there's a difference between power and force. And yoga is always, always, always about the power. And yet our mind tends to want to step in and sprinkle in some force, sometimes bringing us quite a bit out of balance of our power. Because your power is more in that stillness in your heart, that magical heart chakra we spoke about earlier. The gateway between the lower physical chakras and the upper spirituals. And if my words took you away from your two things you're focusing on, just come back there now. How you're sitting powerfully, and a soft breath. It takes a lot of strength to be soft in this world sometimes. This is you and all your power. How you're sitting with a little bit of pride, a little bit of power, and the softness in your breath. Reminding ourselves that that power is always available to us. The power to be soft, the power to slow down. The power to be still. And so often when we think of meditation, we think of, okay, I'm going to force myself to be still and be quiet and not think of anything. And that's not going to work. First of all, in my opinion, it is not possible to think of nothing. So what I'll invite you to do is to arrive whenever you want to meditate and have no expectations, first of all. That's a great sense of power already. Just let what happens happen. And that is a great, great power as well. To let happen what's happening. And to not try to change the moment into something that's not. And for these last couple of minutes, I'll invite you to reflect upon something that in your life or the way that you see the world. It could be now, could be a week ago, could be a year from now, or just something you've experienced. And maybe, would you respond differently if you remembered that you are powerful and that our mind doesn't have that much control of what happens around us? But we do have that power that's always there. And is there a situation in your day, in your life, that reminding ourselves that that power is always there within us to let things be as they are? It's the mind that tends to want to force. But it's the heart that recognizes everything is in exactly divine alignment. And if you don't believe in divinity, that's totally fine. Everything's in perfect alignment. This is you reclaiming your power. Stillness. Power and stillness. How you're sitting, how you're breathing. And begin to deepen your breath a little. If it feels good, you can slowly open the hands or the feet, stretching, remembering that the slower we move, the more we discover. And if you are lying down, I'd ask you to come up to a seated position and take your time. Remember, there's more power in moving slowly. If we move fast, it's more of a forceful action. And please bring your hands to your heart center. A reminder that we are powerful beings as humans. And we create so much of our reality. It's too much to go into in a yoga class, but those of you who know me know that I dabble in it regularly, so some of you know what I'm alluding to here. And the human beings are revered throughout the universe. You are unique, not better, not worse, no better than, no less than, unique. And your curiosity, the way we perceive the world around us, is going to have everything to do with our state of mind. Whether we feel powerful, whether we feel weak, confident, shy. And know in this moment, you are a powerful being. And there's great, great power in choosing stillness. We'll work on this theme a little bit for the next couple weeks. Bring your thumbs to your third eye, breathe in. And we bow forward and honor that power in all beings and say, Namaste. I love you guys. Can't wait to see you. Bye-bye.